Welcome, everyone, to another exciting episode of our English Learning Podcast. Today we're going to talk about something we all love, travel. Specifically, we'll focus on how to talk about a memorable trip you took. Whether it was a relaxing beach vacation, an adventurous hike in the mountains, or a cultural city tour, this episode will help you describe your experience in English with confidence. We'll share some useful vocabulary, practice example sentences, and give you tips to sound natural when talking about your travels. Plus, we've got 200 unique sentences for you to practice at home. So, grab a cup of coffee, sit back, and let's get started. Ready to share your travel story? Let's go. Let's start with a quick example. Imagine I went on a memorable trip to Paris. Here's how I might describe it. Last summer, I took an incredible trip to Paris, France. It was my first time visiting Europe, and I was so excited. I stayed in a cozy hotel near the Eiffel Tower. Every morning, I enjoyed fresh croissants and coffee at a local cafe. One of the highlights was visiting the Louvre Museum. I spent hours admiring the Mona Lisa and other famous artworks. The city was so vibrant, and the food was amazing, especially the crepes. I'll never forget walking along the Seine River at sunset. It was such a magical experience. Let's try another example. 2 years ago, I went hiking in the Alps. The mountains were breathtaking, and the air was so fresh. I hiked for 3 days with a group of friends. We stayed in small cabins and cooked our own meals. The views from the top were worth every step. I felt so accomplished and free. Now, it's your turn. Think about a memorable trip you took. Where did you go? What did you do? How did it feel? Pause the video and try describing it in a few sentences. Don't worry about mistakes, just have fun. To make it easier, we've prepared 100 unique sentences for you to practice. These sentences are varied to cover different types of trips and avoid repetition. They are grouped by theme for clarity, but you can mix them up for practice. Beach island vacations. 2. I spent a week relaxing on the beaches of Bali. 3. The sunset on Santorini's beaches was breathtaking. 4. I learned to surf during my trip to Hawaii. 5. Snorkeling in the Great Barrier Reef was a dream come true. 6. The beaches in Phuket were so peaceful and clean. 7. I loved collecting seashells on the shores of the Bahamas. 8. My family and I went swimming with dolphins in the Caribbean. 9. The beach parties in Ibiza were so much fun. 10. I felt so relaxed listening to the waves in Fiji. Mountain adventure trips. Hiking in the Himalayas was the adventure of a lifetime. The views from the top of Mount Kilimanjaro were stunning. I went skiing in the Alps and loved the snowy slopes. Camping in the Rockies was so peaceful. I felt so alive climbing Machu Picchu in Peru. The air in the Andes was so fresh and clean. I went paragliding in the Swiss Alps, and it was thrilling. Trekking in Patagonia was challenging but rewarding. I saw a glacier for the first time in Iceland. The mountains in Nepal were like a painting. City cultural trips. Exploring Rome was like stepping into a history book. I loved the busy streets of Tokyo at night. Visiting the Colosseum in Rome was a dream come true. I tried authentic pasta in a small restaurant in Florence. The markets in Marrakesh were so colorful and lively. I visited the Taj Mahal, and it was breathtaking. Walking through Kyoto's temples felt so peaceful. I learned about ancient history in Athens. The architecture in Barcelona was absolutely stunning. I watched a flamenco show in Seville, and it was amazing. Road trips, outdoor adventures. My road trip across Route 66 was an amazing adventure. Driving through the Australian outback was unforgettable. I camped under the stars during a road trip in Nevada. The coastal roads in California. I stopped at small towns during my road trip in Ireland. Driving through Tuscany's countryside was like a movie. I saw wild kangaroos on a road trip in Australia. The roads in Iceland were surrounded by stunning landscapes. I went on a road trip with my best friends in New Zealand. The desert roads in Morocco were so peaceful. Unique cultural experiences. I attended a traditional tea ceremony in Japan. I danced with locals at a festival in Brazil. I learned about Maori culture in New Zealand. I stayed in a yurt in Mongolia, and it was so unique. I tried street food at a night market in Thailand. I visited a traditional village in Kenya. I learned to play the didgeridoo in Australia. I watched a traditional dance in Bali. I stayed with the host family in Peru and learned Spanish. I visited a floating market in Vietnam. Food and culinary experiences. I tried sushi for the first time in Tokyo. The street food in Bangkok was spicy but delicious. I learned to make pasta in a cooking class in Italy. The desserts in Paris were absolutely divine. I tried a traditional curry in India, and it was amazing. The seafood in Greece was so fresh and flavorful. I visited a vineyard in France and tasted amazing wines. The tacos in Mexico were the best I've ever had. I tried kimchi in South Korea, and it was so unique. The paella in Spain was full of flavor. Nature and wildlife experiences. The Amazon rainforest was full of incredible animals. I went whale watching in Iceland, and it was magical. The coral reefs in Australia were so colorful. I saw a lion on a safari in Kenya. The waterfalls in Brazil were absolutely stunning. I hiked through a jungle in Costa Rica. The Northern Lights in Norway were a bucket list moment. I saw penguins in Antarctica, and they were so cute. The desert in Namibia was vast and beautiful. The Northern Lights in Norway were a bucket list moment.